Hello and welcome to this edition of Maxim Foods Inside Track, second one for the year, so 2021 is well underway. I hope everyone is well and we'll kick straight into it. Starting off with full cream milk powder, we saw a 2.2% rise last night on GDT, which was with expectations when looking at futures market and general sentiment. New Zealand milk flow figures for November were down and looking that way for December, January, so which would have sparked some demand on the GDT, mainly North Asian buyers for whole milk powder, but yeah, the market does remain quite firm. Interesting to note that the tipping point over the last sort of 2 to 3 years has been around $3,300 on the GDT, but this has busted through that at $3,380. So it's interesting to see. I think things will remain firm over the next few months. Having a look at skim milk powder now. Skim milk powder up another 7% last night on GDT, which is a few consecutive rises now. That strong demand, specifically from North Asia for Fonterra product, is really driving that Oceania pricing. Interesting to note, there still is about a $300 US disparity between European skim and Australian NZ. Having a look at butter now and AMF. Obviously this was the biggest news of last night. We had 17% rise in AMF and 4.5% rise in butter, mainly due to Southeast Asian and Oceanic demand, which really drove those prices up. Interesting to note that AMF's probably been undervalued against butter for the last 9 months, so a lot of that 17% was probably a correction that we were bound to see at some point. Demand for New Zealand butter remains very high, hence that 8th consecutive GDT lift. So yeah, interesting times for butterfat. I think demand will remain quite strong, and as we go into the winter months of New Zealand's milk production, then supply may dwindle. So I think we're looking at probably a pretty buoyant butterfat market over the coming months. Having a quick look at cheese now, not a lot to report. Demand for Oceanic cheddar was quite soft in the short term, so pricing remains relatively flat. Moving across to lactose and whey, these are two really strong performing commodities at the moment. Lactose on the infant formula demand side and production, and then also the whey powder. Stock feed demand in China is still very high, which we've spoken of in the last few inside tracks. So both those commodities continue to firm and will do in the coming months. Just on a side note, we're still experiencing a lot of disruption with international freight and domestic freight, so it's important for our customers just to be as organised as they can, get the forecasts in so we make sure we've got the right product at the right time for you guys. Once again, thanks very much for listening, and we'll see you next time on the Inside Track.